Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the weekly WAYPN. How is each and every one of you? Unsurprisingly, you may be intrigued to find out that I am still loading up the weekly WAYPN. Man, that thread has gotten somewhat large in the past few months, has it not, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, it is getting tremendously big, and we have a phenomenal amount of images on it right now. And loading up the whole thread at a time, while the easiest way to look through it is not exactly the easiest on the good old web browser. So, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, it'll all be loaded in time. There is another 9 minutes or so yet for it to have it all loaded up, but we have certainly been doing some damage with it, haven't we, ladies and gentlemen? Alright, so how has all of your weeks been? I do see that our ever illustrious Richard Builds has been going hard and managed to get himself a golden button. So very well done on that, my man. That is well worth the effort. I tell you what, man, it was a very, very nice piece that you put up. But you know, I think that all of your pieces have been really good recently. Just because, I don't know, I really like Seraphon to begin with. You know, I prefer the old moniker Lizard Men. But I mean, I think it's kind of cool the way that they've set them up. You know, that they've set them up as like sort of demons of order. And I like the concept of that, you know, and I think that that's a very cool concept. So, yeah. Just about to start the warm-up. Yeah, you got a button, Richard Builds. Check out the community page. You got a button this week. Did you not notice? Oh, good gee golly gosh. These people have no appreciation for art. Definitely not. You know, they're certainly not spending all their time doing it all the time enough to have a whole thread about it. No appreciation at all. And how's the quality, guys? I'm trying being the key word, trying to increase the quality of my outputs. Though it's the problem is Australian internet combined with my inability to operate streaming devices. That does not combine well. Though OBS is not exactly the most transparent of programs. But yeah, because I am still going hard on downloading those pictures. Man, just there is so much content here. Usually there's not too much to go through, but I think we've had a hell of a week. Well, I don't know. I think it's been a hell of a week. But you guys might think differently. So what have you guys been up to? I'm here for you, for each and every one of you. So do tell us what you think, guys. What you have been up to. Your thoughts on the world, current state of events. Actually, no, don't do that at all. Politics is a bit cancerous at the moment, just a tad carcinogenic. But that is the state of the world at the moment. So let us escape that completely and just see how your weeks have been going. We do have people here. I can see it says 7 watching right now. I know you're there. But yeah, so in the middle of painting bone, huh? Well, yeah. We will see how it goes. We will see how it goes. Not everything you paint up will get a community button. Not that you will ever notice at all. But yeah, so I think we're starting off with you this week, Rich. 1 week to the Hamburg Tactica, finishing off the Sandworm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's been coming up pretty nicely, the Sandworm. Oh man, yeah. So, Soap Dodger, you are a complete madman. My mate's just getting into Infinity now, and he's a bit of a nutcase as well. So he just bought the Sunseeker expansion for Kingdom Death as well, and he hardly ever plays. He's played less than me, and I've played like 100 years, and he's played like 5 with me. And he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna get the expansions. I'm gonna get all the expansions. I'm gonna get everything. And it's like, calm down, man. You know. Um. So, how has the cleaning of the airbrushes gone? Because I know that that is a bit of a problem. Hey, how are you? So, time is marching on, and we're almost there. Only 3 minutes till liftoff, ladies and gentlemen. All right, it has been it's been a fairly unproductive week for me because the heat has been absolutely killer, just absolutely killer. So I have discovered the secret of how to make sure that my white comes out nice and properly from the rattle cans. So in order to use rattle cans properly here in Australia, I literally have to refrigerate them. There is no joke there. There is no punchline. There's no nothing. It's just a very sad me trying to get things to work. But yeah, speaking of very sad me trying to get things to work, I tell you what, there is a lot of content on this thread. But yeah, I am looking forward to going over everything. Saturninus Perlinius has really been going hard recently, hasn't he? It's good to see him getting back into it. But yeah, so what are your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Which sounds strange, Andre? And yeah, that's cool. That's all cool, Calidors too. You name thieving, oh, you so and so. But yes, we're getting close to lunchtime. I think I should most probably keep these clean-up things a little shorter than what they are because it seems that I fairly quickly run out of things to talk about. But at the moment, I'm glad for the extra time because I was a little worried there because behind the guy who feels like me, the guy who's got the cigarette and the drink in one hand and face palming in the other. You know that that guy's doing well. You know that he's having a great day. Um, Other than that, that's a little bit me at the moment with things loading up, keeping keeping the thread pushing things up all the time, which is not frustrating at all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting down to those final counts, and we're about to switch over. All right, we're almost there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The final countdown. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the weekly WAYPN, ladies and gentlemen. How has each and every one of you been this week? We have been having a killer week here on this thread, and it doesn't make me cry when I see just the 2 likes at all for this. No, it doesn't make me cry at all. But we are starting this week off with Richard Builds and his Chameleon Skinks. And they are ever so lovely. I do believe we may have taken a look at them just before. And if you see it jumping up, don't worry. That's just all of the pictures loading. So that's all that's going on. It's not infuriating at all, ladies and gentlemen. Not infuriating at all. So, let's get into these guys here, and I think what I'll do to just avoid that for the moment is I'll pop these guys out, and we'll take a look at each of them individually while that is still going on. So when I take a look at these guys, the first thing that pops out at me, right, is how muted they are compared to that of Richard Build's other pieces of work. So of course he's done beautiful, beautiful basing, right? Now, when I take a look at this, I'm almost tempted to say overdone with the way that sort of wiry weed comes out, but he's trying to simulate a particular type of terrain, and I've seen that terrain before. Hey Russell, how you going? And the thing is, with that, I think that comes through really well. But I don't know. For me, I just feel that these skinks could have just a little more pop on them, just a little more pop on them, and I think that would help them out a lot. I understand the theory behind it, but when it comes down to it, what we're trying for is verisimilitude, not actual reality. So yeah, so Andre77 says, well, they are meant to melt into the terrain. And while I do get that right, what I was saying is we're aiming for verisimilitude, not for actual reality. And I feel when you take a look at these compared to the rest of Richard Build's stuff, we're just going to have to scroll down a bit because it keeps popping us up. Because of all of the stuff it's loading! Oh, jeez. Oh, gee willikers. But yeah, so like, I love these different shots, these different angles, which gives us a bit of a different look. And so, to take a bit of comparison, we take a look at this bloke right here, right? Who's come together just beautifully, and I love seeing all of the works in progress on him. Now, this is the one that Richard has gotten a community button for, which he was blatantly unaware of, which of course doesn't upset anyone, doesn't make anybody think, I won an award and I can't even win an award and he didn't even know that he'd won an award. Oh, what a world. There's nobody thinking like that at all. At all. Not at all. But, when you take a look at those vibrant colors compared to these guys right here, you just think, yes, shame, shame, shame. When you take a look at them compared to these guys, while they're quite beautiful, while they're really nice in the way that they're done up, I think that there could be a few places where you could really pop the color. So I think maybe on the eyes is an area where you could really just go ham, or just something to make them pop just that little bit. So I think that with these, I know exactly what he's going for, but you still want that extra bit. Good Lord, WAYPN, when will you ever finish loading? But let us move on, and we are moving on to the ever lovely Andre77. If this freaking browser will stay still for a freaking minute. So he's been working on his sandworm, and I think that it's coming together really, really nicely. This is the bit that I particularly liked. I do think, like, if you had have done another set of teeth in there, I think that could have looked really cool. Just one more, one down, because it seems to always look like that in the movies and a lot of the imagery that I see. But this bit right here is the bit that I really like. What I'm not too sure what that exact bit is that you're using. Good Lord, come on, Firefox, calm the truck down. Calm the truck down. This bit right here I really like. So like for most of it, I can identify each bit. Um, yeah. So at Oriskany, I get that they're meant to be stealthy, right? But you've always got to consider your whole army when you're painting things, right? You can't just look at anything and consider it an individual piece. Because when you're taking a look at this guy right here, these are just the works in progress. If anybody wants to go to the community gold button thread, they will, sorry, thread, topic, they will see his amazing work. Good Lord, WAYPN, calm down. And we will see the beautiful work by him, and it is extremely colourful. And speaking of which, let us move on to the next one. All right, so just going back to Richard Builds Things for a second. All right, Richard said, sorry, I was halfway done throwing the painting batch. That's cool, man. And Soap Dodger said that he really loves the Crazy Dune Worm project. He says, yeah, I wanted to emphasize the chameleon bit that they've sprung out of hiding and disappeared. So I think that one of the best ways to sort of do that is like when I did my Tau cloaking suits, right? What I did was I had half of them all in like the sort of Tau colors, and then a blue ring, to sort of indicate the energy field of them transitioning from camouflage to whatever it is, to give that change. It's just, I feel that your stuff is so colorful, so vibrant, that these right here feel as if they're not even from the same army. Without that basing, they wouldn't feel as if they fit there. So next up, we are going to hope that WAYPN has calmed the truck down and we can look at things for just half a second. And we've got Chlorophyll, yet another awesome Phil name, finishing up some of his stuff for, I do believe this is the Giant Junkman game, Labyrinth. Yeah, it's come together really nicely. So I'm going to go over and take a bit of a better look at it. So first off, chlorophyll. I think that you need to change your lighting a bit, because when it comes to this, you're getting a lot of shadows on this, and we can see that you put a tremendous amount of effort into this, man. So feel free to redo your lighting, all of that sort of thing, and take some more photos, because you put a tremendous amount of effort into it, and some of it's not coming through as much. So I really like the way that he's done up the foxtail. I love the colors, and I love the little details within this. I also like the way that he's done the shaggy dog's face. I think that's come up really, really nicely. The only problem is when you're doing details like this, when you make, not as clean lines, such as down here, it's always that, oh, right, no, sorry, yeah, that is, I forgot. That's my bad. I do know that there is many Jameses, okay? Give me a break, guys. There is many Jameses. So this right here can be a little punishing, as unless I've got an actual picture of the labyrinth dog on me, I don't recognize what this is here. That's alright. It's alright, Oriskany. There was no confusion over which James is which at all. Don't rewind the video, by the way. There's no reason you'd need to do that. Anyway, moving on. So I think that it's come together really well. I like a lot of this, but see, just these little bits right here, that's where things went just a little off. And when you're doing patterns, you really gotta nail it, and don't worry about it, because most people will just give a good old thumbs up. But if you want to improve your craft, that's where you're going to have to focus. And it's going to be a long road, man, because doing patterns onto things is a skill in of itself. Next up, we've got Suetonius Polynius, also known as Andy. And he's doing up some of his Spectre operations, guys. Now, we have seen some of them before, right? So I do believe we've seen Old Mate and Old Mate over here. But we've got these two new guys over here. And what I really do like about them is he really helps bring to life the more realistic sort of everyday elements of these guys. So you take a look at the way that the pockets are done up, the way that he's really exaggerated those creases and such. All of these little details, sort of thing, is about making it have that extra sense of verisimilitude. So while it's not real in that these shadows aren't that level of exaggerated, right? We're not trying. sorry, Janice. While we're not trying for, while we're not trying for reality, we're trying for the feeling of reality. And that's the thing that I think that he does really well. And that's why I really like his style. That sort of very comic book-esque. I've tried to remember it's like the Walking Dead video games. Like that, in that very sort of comic book, still life, exaggerated sort of thing. And I think that it comes together really well, especially with the games that he works on. Alright, next up, we've got Zevbol? Zevbol? Yep, names, that's my specialty, ladies and gentlemen. And so he's been working on this lass at the moment. So I do believe that she's just finished her up. Hey, Chris. That's alright, no problem, Sheldon. We will see you later, and do enjoy. Alright, and Oriskany just said, epic work on those Black Ops contractors at Suetonius Polynius, commonly known as an Andy. So one of the things that I really like that he's done up with this here, right, is contrast of kind. So you take a look at the basing, and it's very naturalistic, it's very nice, it's got those three elements, which that I love, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got these lovely, transitions in here, right? The biggest problem I have with this is not to do with anything to do with the miniature at all, but the the photography. If he could set it against a neutral background, that would help me out tremendously. And the thing is, with this, right, what I particularly like is how he's gone for that very sort of pale skin tone, which almost blends in with the purple, right? You can see how it's got those shadows of purple in it, and it looks just absolutely freaking lovely. I would say that there's a couple of things that need work. One would be being a metal model, and I think you all know my opinion on metal models, which is they can all burn in a fire. That leads to these little marks here where your paint scuffs off, and you can see why I'm not a fan of the metal models. But that aside, there's also, I think, just running a slight water effect over this, even if it's just PVA, I think that would help bring it up that much more, because you've got all of this lovely bit of basing right here, right? And you're trying to give the impression that she's just coming out of a lagoon, but then, it's gone to that painting style. And just giving that little extra water effect will help bring people in. Alright, next up we've got Oriskany and just a few tanks, just one or two. Yep, just one or two tanks. Just one or two. Doesn't seem like too many at all. Not too many at all. One or two. So one of the things that I like about what Oriskany does is the way that he gets very defined lines on his tanks. So let's pop one of these things up. Yeah, so just on this here with Sevbol, Calidors 2, the name thieving so-and-so, says, yes, I hate it when you get those little chips with metal models. And that is the primary reason why I really hate metal models, because they are so punishing to painters. People can really put in a tremendous amount of effort, and then you've either got to go, well, I've got to varnish this to give it that extra level of protection, and that won't necessarily protect everything, or I've got to hope that nothing goes wrong. I've got to hope that nothing goes wrong. So, as I was saying, the one thing that I really like about what Oriskany does is the way that he does these very clean lines in here, right? I think that that looks very nice. You know, that sort of very defined look to these things, giving them a great sort of mechanical feel, because we got these sharp edges, that sort of thing. The one thing I do look at, and like this is the problem with dealing with historical models, is that we're looking at a lot of a green blob, right? We're looking at just monotone colors, and it is essentially the problem that I have with historical models. And I've said this once or twice, but I do think that there are ways of getting around it, such as Pierre's classic technique of rust the hell out of them, but with modern tanks, one would hope that they're not completely rusty, because that's not exactly what you want to be showing off. Because at the moment, we don't have a whole lot of WW2 style conflicts. So I think one of the things that I would look at is putting a gloss wash within here, right? And maybe just hit it up with a dry brush of metallics within that, right? To give it that sort of grinding metallic look, right? Like these things are just churning along, just chugging along all the time to give it that feel of the mechanical, and sort of make it feel a bit more alive. So we do see a bit of the sort of the mud kicked up here, right? Which I do think is a great way of putting some color on the models. But that's one of the things that I'd look at, giving a difference of kind. Now, one of the big problems we have is we enter the exact same problems with some of the other things, right? So we have a sea of the other kind of green here, right? Or of camouflage. And you've just got to look for opportunities where you can to get those contrasts of kind, to get that extra level into your painting. But yeah, so overall, I think it's come up really nicely, and I really like the clean lines. But the big thing for me is when it comes to historicals, you really have to work to find where you can put your painter's brand onto things. And I think Pierre's is really good at it, and I think like these have come up really well. There's only one or two of them, so you know I can understand why these things have just been completely rushed through, that sort of thing. Not no effort at all. That sort of thing. But yeah. So I think the big thing is that when it comes to historicals, you've really got to look. You've really got to find that work. Yeah. So at Irish Steve says, crikey, I couldn't even guess how long it would take me to paint up that many. Nice work, man. Yeah, it is. It is just one or two. Just one or two. So that is an effort in of itself. So Oriskany says, yes, these are 15mm old Battlefront open fire starter kits. Not the best kits, but it came into these at a very cheap price. Alright, so next up, we've got Ghost Bear, and I'm going to cleanse my palate or just catch my breath with a drink. So do enjoy the one moment of silence in this radio play. Beautiful. All right, so when it comes to the historicals, once again, of this kind, there's two things that I have really, really loved about these Romans. Now, of course, everybody paints them up slightly different, but when I take a look at these, there are two things that always come up with these guys. Um, One, the shields. Two, the bases. I really love how historical guys just absolutely go ham with the bases, and I think that he's put a tremendous, tremendous amount of effort into his basing. Though it does look a little messy, I don't mind that. I think that that looks good. It looks natural. It doesn't look overdone to me. But of course, everybody has different opinions. The other thing that I particularly like is the way that they dusted up the shields to give them the sort of feeling of being used, that sort of thing. Another thing that I found that has come up really nicely is the way that they've given difference of kind when it comes to the different types of metallic. So we've got these helmets on, very shiny metallic, very prominent, right? And you'd always want, if anything, there's basically three areas you want on your model to be extremely prominent. The shoulders and the head. So each shoulder and the head, right? And the reason why you want this is because that creates this triangle of focus, right? Now, you can do it out on outstretched hands, that sort of thing, right? But basically, you want to center the eye on the model. So you'll notice that a lot of GW models have ridiculous shoulder pads and ridiculous heads. And that is why that they do that sort of thing. Whether consciously or unconsciously, they're trying to get you to focus on the model. But yeah, so do that with your painting as well. I think that he's done really well with the faces as well, but I do think that where he's really been let down is the way that he's done up the arms with the skin. I think that they could be brought up quite a bit, you know, just I think that that sort of tan cream nothing color could be lightened in areas and highlighted, that sort of thing, to just make it be a bit more alive. At the moment it seems very sort of dull, and you could really go hard with the contrast of kind in there. Oriskany says, epic work on those late war Imperial Romans. Next up, we've got Dave Hawkes with a bit of feedback for Mwah! Alright, thanks for the feedback during the WAYPN weekly stream. Really good to see those honest feedback delivered as positively as humanly possible. There is a lot here. I'm worried that I give the impression that I'm just starting out. I've been into the hobby for 23 years or so. Oh, right, yes. So, he's been playing for a very long time, but he hasn't been painting for as long. And he's trying to get people to have a good look at his project over here, Deneb Skirmish. I do believe I'm pronouncing that right. It's a star, I do believe. I do remember something about Gates of Antares or something, and Deneb, and there's stars, there's something there, ladies and gentlemen. But that is no problem at all, Dave Hawkes. Like, the thing is, the whole reason why I give the feedback that I do, and in the manner that I do, is I want each and every person who is in WAYPN to grow as a painter, regardless of the level that they're at. So from our top tier painters to the people just starting out, I want everybody to grow. And the way you get people to grow is you get them to grow by telling them what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Because if you only ever get just negative feedback, nobody's ever going to want to come and listen to that, right? But if you get just positive feedback, right, you're going to be very negatively geared to negative feedback. You're going to be, oh, plug my ears, I don't want to hear this. But everybody has an opportunity to grow as a painter, and that's what I'm trying to facilitate. But trying is the primary word. That's the word you use for me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very trying. Alright, so next up we've got Sertonus Polinius, commonly known as an Andy, and he's doing some more Spectre operations, guys. So, of course, Andy does up beautiful, beautiful camouflage, right? And I think that this more modern camouflage is something that I really, really like, right? I think that it just comes together so well. And I guess because I'm more used to modern camouflage, I guess that's the reason why I enjoy it more. But the other thing I really like is he goes hard when he's trying to get that extra little bit of contrast, right? Like right here, I think giving that skin that extra bit of pop, just making that come out that much more, I think that really, really helps things. When it comes to these, there is two things that stand out for me. So one, I think that is incredible and ridiculous. I don't know whether he's done that up by hand or not. I hope he's not done it up by hand, because it kind of looks that way, and that's insane, doing up the American flag in those flat colors when you've got it on the camouflage. I think that looks gorgeous, but if you're going to do that, just dot a couple of bits of white onto it. If you're going to go that hard, man, go hard. The other thing is, when it comes to these glasses, I think just hitting them with a gloss wash or just a pure gloss, I'd say just just that little bit extra will give you another contrast of kind. But it wouldn't be a WAYPN Weekly without me being upset at basing at some point in time. I take a look at this, right, and I just feel that, just a bit of shrub here or there, something. Like, I feel that I know you can do better, man. I know you can. And you'll make us all proud when one day we see one of your things, and I don't whine about the basing. I don't want to whine about the base. Alright. So, Sevda just says, love those Rangers. I think if you were to put them on a great board, you would lose them. And I didn't even see the flag. Alright, next up we have Richard Builds, and here is what I was talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So, first off, well done, and I'm going to have to check that I've been giving that throughout. Have I not? I don't know. Oh no. That's one problems I have with this, because it's one continuous thing here, but usually they're broken up into 15. But, so, very well done on the community button, Richard Builds, that he didn't even know about. And it was talked about in the Weekender. It's not as if, they're not throwing at you all the time. You take a look at the level of colors on this guy right here, and I think that it's very representative of some of the other guys. And I think that you guys will get a feel of what I'm on about with the chameleons. So you take a look at the chameleons here, right? Now, beautiful, beautiful paint job, of course. But you take a look at them, and you take a look at this guy, right? And it feels like they're not even from the same army. They're not beyond being lizards, right? It feels as if they don't belong. So I think that is what I'm trying to get across, because of course this is beautiful, that's beautiful, right? But they're very different kinds of beautiful, very different kinds of models. And it wouldn't be a WAYPN Weekly without me complaining about basing, of course. I feel that though this basing right here, though the little Aztec theme there looks really nice, I would try and add one other element of all of this. So maybe like the little bit of grass there, I think would fit best. But when I say grass, I mean the tall, weedy grass, not this lush grass. But either that or just a bit of fallen off rock, because it seems a bit out of place as it stands, just singular. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at. You've got to always remember stuff within context. And that's what I'm taking a look at when I'm taking a look at the chameleons compared to this guy. And this guy's come together beautifully. I love the eyes. I think the flesh color, the way that he's done up the scales, that is absolutely beautiful. And I love the vibrancy of the feathers and how it contrasts with all of the body. That looks just mwah, just beautiful. Just beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Um, yeah, so I hope you guys see what I'm sort of getting at. Alright, so Richard Build says the little guys are ninja lizards. Yes, I understand the concept. Irish Steve says lovely colour palette. Never forgiven the skinks for killing my rat ogres in. Is that Bloodborne 2? BB2. I do not know what BB2 is. I fixed the base on the priest. Has some foliage on it now. Sweet! So hopefully we will see him sooner rather than later. Next up, we've got Lawn Ore, and something very different for Lawn Ore. So I'm just going to have a quick scroll and see whether I should read the whole thing out, because often he will tell us how he's gone through the entire process of his stuff. So I don't think I'll read out everything, but let's have a quick squiz even. Jeez, yeah, I don't get tongue-tied. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So he's been going hard on his Flames of War vehicles. He's 28 15mm Flames of War vehicles. I see what you're doing there. I see. Not trying to confuse anyone with your 28 15mm models. Yes. Yes. So, once again, we have the conundrum of the historical, right? So, I absolutely love the way that these look. Is that a rat symbol right there? I don't remember the rats having tanks, but I could be wrong. I'm not 100% up on the history. But yeah, so while I do like the camouflage, I do think that just having the singular stripes sort of, unless you've got it in this fixed position, it doesn't quite look right, because you see how it's got that line along there, right? As soon as the turret moves, it will seem off. Now, I do know that there's a good chance that these will be in the fixed position, but what I do like is this within here. Now, I talked about this before, having the whole having the idea of getting contrast of kind. So you see how you've got these oiled up gears within there. Finding those places where you can have contrast of kind. So, Richard Build says, loving all the armor. Oriskany says, amazing US Rangers. And Age of Sigmar, Seraphon figures. Congrats on the golden button. And yes, 7th Armored Division insignia. So, next up, we've got some more works in progress and such, and here we've got another one finished up. And see, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You've just really got to find places to find those contrasts of kind. But when I'm taking a look at this, like, I just think that the whole thing is with that, I think that having that mud feel does give you one extra contrast of kind. So, like, having mud down around here, not up there, but down around there. So within that, and up on the mud guards up here and that sort of thing, I think that really does add another extra level of character to it. Though I do believe these might be desert tanks. I could be wrong, but I do believe that might be some of Rommel's old men. But here is one of the things that I want to talk about when I talk about using transfers. Using transfers, ladies and gentlemen, is a skill. So the thing is, we've taken a look at some of these, right, and we've seen some beautiful use of transfers like here, and some not so beautiful use of transfers like there and here. See, like this looks great. Then down here, you've got that level of gloss on it, and just remember, ladies and gentlemen, it does take a level of effort to get those things working. So never have a go at people for using those things, because it does actually require a level of effort to get those transfers on neatly. I don't use transfers at all, ladies and gentlemen, just for that very reason. So it does look as if he's got a little bit on his plate, just a tiny, teeny bit. And Oriskany says, sorry, the rat insignia is the 7th Armoured Division insignia. Richard Builds, my personal preference for historicals is accuracy. I want them to blend in. Well, yeah, so when I come to WAYPN, I'm taking a look at it as a painter first, always. You know, if I was on the historical channel, it would be a different kettle of fish. But this is What Are You Painting Now weekly, not previously in World War II. Well, old chaps, it looks like the Kaiser's up to some nonsense over there. He's not the Kaiser, he's a Führer. It's all right, chap. It's all right. They know what we're talking about. All right, so we've got Ozbad up next with a dwarf Ram Rider warrior, and I really, really like this concept. I absolutely love the idea of dwarves on different types of mounts, and I think that the ram is just such a great mount for them in the way that their character is, because I feel that it connects with them so well, just so well, because they're stubborn, you know, they some of the times they fight fights they should never be fighting. And like they'll just doggedly go at things regardless. So, there's a lot of things I like about the model. First off, I think the way that he's done it, the furs come up nicely. The way that he's done this sort of very quick dry brush, you know, quick layer over the top, you know, get them up nice. Fantastic contrast of kind with the steel against the fur, against this blue mat here, right? And then, of course, the red of his beard against the blue there. And look at that basing, ladies and gentlemen. Mwah. Oh, it's just gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at it. It's luscious. It's thick. Oh, what more could you want? It just fills my heart with joy. But aside from that, oh look, even that rock right there, just jutting up out there. It's just rising up out of the ground. Oh, it makes you feel good. But other than that, so the one thing that I note with these guys is that they're very dull, okay? And when I say that, I mean in the way that their color scheme comes across. So everything's very muted, right? Now, I get the idea of the theme of it sort of thing, but you want your minis to pop, and I think that there's a couple of ways that you could do that with these guys. Like, for example, you could have the fade on the horns, you know, going from dark at the bottom to light up there, or in reverse. I think having those beards pop that extra bit, you know, having that extra bit of color, bringing the focus to the face, I think that that would be a great way of doing things. But other than that, I think that they are looking really damn nice. Richard Build says, Ram reminds me of World of Warcraft. Happy days. Well, you and I have very different experiences with World of Warcraft. I have not played, but oh, the gamer apocalypse. Jeez, people just disappeared. Just disappeared. But yeah, let us move on. Next up, we've got NT with some Mythic Battles Pantheons. And ladies and gentlemen, take a look at that right there. Now, there is a model on this, of course, but take a look at that water effect. Oh, just gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. Just gorgeous. Just drink it in for a minute. It is absolutely phenomenal. Now, I do think that with these, he's cheated a lot, just done dry brush, wash, that sort of thing, just to really make them, come together. And I understand with Mythic Battles Pantheon, I can understand why you may want to do that. So, of course, there's just a model or two in the Mythic Battles thing. So Andre says, you're not alone with the WoW disappearing people phenomenon. And yeah, I very much noticed it. I played card games very regularly at the time. And we used to have like half a dozen people turn up to the card shop every day. And after WoW was released, it was like there was some sort of gamer holocaust, like somebody had been out getting them. It was ridiculous. Just people were there every single week, like they'd pop in one day every single week, and then they were just gone, never to be seen of again, ever, ever. And I was just like, good lord, what the hell has happened? Um, but yeah, it was intense. And like then, getting off topic, let's focus back on the pain. But yes, I very much know what you guys mean when you say that WoW really does consume people. David says, man, I'm gonna have to take a look at those few Mythic Battle Pantheons painting threads. So I think that he's done a lot of cheating, which is fine, but I just go that little extra effort. So I just put some red within here or some pink on the tongues, that sort of thing. Just give those little extra efforts of contrast of kind, because we can see that you've done it with the basing, and the basing looks absolutely phenomenal with these two, because they look absolutely phenomenal. So I love the way that he's done the underbelly in here, and I love how he's given a great contrast of kind. Just take a look at the different washes that he's used with these two, right? So on the top, we've got the dry brush, so it's got this very sort of more chalky look to the scales, right? It's a more sort of rough look, and then this very sort of smooth look to the underbelly, which you'll often get with snakes. And I think that looks absolutely phenomenal. But then we fall down a bit here. While I really like the paint job of this guy, and while I do really like the way that he's used those two techniques for this one also, I just feel add something. Just add something to those to that base there to make it just a little bit more than what it is, because at the moment it just doesn't feel like it's alive enough. Uh, so yes, it looks like we have all been stung by the online game craze at times. Next up, we've got Irish Steve, and I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, isn't this gorgeous? So one of the main things that I look at when I take a look at these, right? I see some techniques that I know, right, and I go, oh, okay, I might be able to replicate that. Like here, the verdigris build up, here, the way that he's got, the rust in here, the wear away. but then you take a look at this, the cracks and the bubbling, that sort of thing, and I go, how do you do it? What's going on? And I just wonder to myself, and that is when I'm truly in awe of a bit of painting. So, it doesn't happen often, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, but for once, I don't have anything to add on these, which is really quite frustrating because they're beautiful pieces. And as you know, when I tend to give that little extra bit there, um, we get that little extra bit more. And I think that these just look utterly gorgeous. And there's not much to say, but I'm going to hazard a guess. Um, that this is some of the technical paint which has been painted over, but I couldn't say for sure. All right, we will see you later, Richard Builds. We will see you soon, hopefully. Hopefully you will return to us. Irish Steve says, cheers, man. Painted them on my Twitch stream, but I made 2 tutorial videos or YouTube videos as well. Feel free to share them in the WAYPN thread, man, because that is what it is here for. I know that you've got those links there, but often people miss these little links. Usually when you share them, share like something like this and people actually notice them. That's one of the big things. But yeah, feel free to share them, man, because I want to see more stuff like this, and that is utterly gorgeous. And that is one of the reasons I have been thinking of buying Necromunda, but I've already got so much to paint already. All right. So next up, we've got Richard Builds, and he's got his little skink all done up, and oh, isn't it gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen? So we're almost there, I do believe. There's, I do believe he's done up some more on the base, so hopefully we'll see that. But yeah, I do think that those little gold balls on the back, I do think add an extra bit to it, giving that extra level of contrast. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. Andre said, and those are just the gaming pieces. Yeah, they're not even the models, I know, man. Alright, next up, we've got Gorilla with a Brush, and ladies and gentlemen, you can see why some people get upset at him. Taking a look and, you know, crying themselves to sleep. I definitely don't know who that is. I definitely don't know who that is. But, absolutely beautiful, beautiful work. But I've always loved the way that he goes through his whole process here. But take a look at that tattoo there, ladies and gentlemen. Utterly, utterly gorgeous. And I love the way that he's done up the shirt. And as you know, ladies and gentlemen, doing up white is an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. So, well done on that as well. And I really do like the way that he's given some great contrast of colours with this. You know, the green against the blue, and of course the skin contrasting all of it. I think that that's looking great. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is just a work in progress. Oh, it's alright, I promise I won't cry. Looking at this model, I promise I won't do it. Next up, we've got Calidors 2 and some more progress on his dwarves, but Calidors 2 has finally finished them up, so we will be talking about them on this very stream, ladies and gentlemen. So, let us move on. Next up, we've got Andre77. Alright, so one sec. So on this, Oriskany says, truer words were never spoken. White is probably one of the hardest colours to work with. You are not wrong. White is a terrible colour to work with, yet we see it everywhere. Thus, we must work with it. And it doesn't make us cry at all. So Andre has been doing some more stuff on his worm, and I think it's looking really good. I particularly like the way that he's doing this. I think that that's going to be one of the key things to making it get that extra level of that certain something to make it feel that more realistic. And it's always hard when working with something that you've made that isn't by a manufacturer. You've got to put all that effort into it and just hope. Yeah, here it is. There's those second set of teeth that I was talking about. I think that looks really nice. Yes, that gets the Calidor's thumb of approval, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Next up, we have Dunham and some absolutely gorgeous Goliaths. Oh, I see. Richard Builds is running on the good old mobile keyboard with the with that, and that is why he ran out on that one. So that is as far as we can zoom in on these guys, ladies and gentlemen. So that doesn't upset me at all. Not at all. 0 levels of frustration. So what I what I particularly like about these guys is contrast of color, right? Beautiful, beautiful contrast of color, right? We've got some great work with the rust effects that he's done on the yellow, right? Yellow is a horrible color to work with, but despite that, he has really, really made these things pop, right? And take a look at the way that he's given a great contrast of kind with the genes that he's done up for these guys, right? And that is one extra bit. Not only has he got a contrast of color, but a contrast of kind, right? And of course, all of the green really contrast quite nicely against the yellow, right? And even more violently against the blue. And it's a great clashing color combination. And this is a classic look when it comes to clashing colors. So often when I talk about clashing colors, a lot of people think that I'm talking about colors that don't go together and that being bad. But see, colors that don't go together, that we have a natural sort of like, oh, that doesn't fit with that. That draws the eye, and that can be great. And I think that it works really, really well here. But you'll take a look and you'll notice that with quite a few of them, it is just a primary color scheme. So we've got the red, we've got the yellow, and we've got the blue when it comes with these grenades. Just that little extra bit makes them blend together that much more. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, sympathetic colors. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal in that. So I would say the biggest problem right here is nothing to do with the minis themselves, but the photo. I really wish that I could have gotten in there and taken a bit more of a closer look, give possibly some things that he could improve, but with the photo being what it is, I can't really give more than what I've given. Oriskany says, great worm on the Arachis worm. Ah, here we go! Ha ha! Never mind, ladies and gentlemen, we have close-ups of each and every one of them. That is beautiful. So, I get to take back my words. There is nothing better than eating crow when it goes your way. So, alright, taking a look at these guys, right? I take a look at the muscle and that's just gorgeous. It's really nice. And that's one of the things when it comes to what I talk about when I talk about looking at miniatures. There's two things. There's the 3-inch rule and the 3 feet rule. So when we're taking a look at them like this, we're taking a look at the 3 feet rule. We're looking at them from 3 feet away. And when we're taking a look at them like this, we're taking a look at them from 3 inches away, right? We're holding them next to our eye. So you take a look at them here, they look nice, right? Great contrast of color, but here you really get to see the detail. So the only thing I would say that he needs to do is the eyes, and as you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm never going to give anyone a hard time over not doing eyes because it's never something that goes well often. So I think that when it comes to that, that can be forgiven. But here, you could do a bit more. You could, because this is something that will be used often for a purpose, and it should look more oiled, more used, rather than something that's completely rusted out, right? That would only be useful as a bludgeon, but these people do use these things for things other than, just bashing people's heads in. So I feel that that's a bit of a missed opportunity there. But when it comes to a lot of these guys, I think that it's what I'm really doing is nitpicking mostly. I think that you could really bring up the leather. You could bring it up in a much brighter color for an additional level of contrast, because as it stands at the moment, it blends in with the skin a lot, especially when we're taking a look at from the 3 feet away, right? Though they're there obviously and we note them, they just sort of blend in for us. They don't become something of note. Um, yeah, just taking a look at them, that's about all that I can really give as, an additional piece of feedback. But I just want to say, absolutely phenomenal work, man. I think that you've done really, really well. I really like what you've done, and hopefully we will see some more from you in the future. Next up, we got Doug the Thug, and he's trying his hand at some Deathwing. Now, taking a look at this, he is dealing with the color which we have been talking about before, the eternal enemy, white. And when it comes to white, it's never good. It is never good. Um, just one comment before we move on. So, Andre77 says, I really love this punky look. Yeah, and I mean, that's really where 40k and Necromunda are born from, that sort of punk scene at the time. So, going back to Doug the Berg's work. So, there's a couple of things. Unfortunately, Doug is hard at working against the eternal enemy of white. I think that when it comes to that, there's a couple of things that you're going to have to avoid. So one, when it comes to these joints here, I'd do them up in a steel rather than trying to do white joints. That's always going to make your life miserable. The same in here, doing metallic to just give yourself that contrast of kind, to give yourself a bit of a break. The other thing is, I think this needs to be hit up with a wash. I do feel that the base wants just something a tad extra, but I think, man, basically you've been doing the best that you can with white. White is a horrible, horrible color to work with. I really like the company insignia and the way that you've got it on that green block there, and how that block is very separate from everything else. It's come together really, really nicely. The way that you put on the transfers are just absolutely beautiful. I think that this right here looks really nice, but I feel that you could just put some of that script on this here, and that would come up that little bit extra. But yeah, I think basically you're fighting the enemy, man, and there's not a whole lot you can do. I would just try and chuck a wash over the Storm Bolter, and just hit up the script on these back here. But other than that, and of course the wash here, but other than that, I think that you've done really well, and I think that basically you're fighting an uphill battle. All right, man. Oh, okay, we got some more. So yes, white with white feathers. That's always gonna work out, isn't it? So when it comes to this, I try and avoid doing white feathers completely, because white on white is always going to be a nightmare, man. It's there's no two ways about it. It's just going to be upsetting. While I do like the idea of the green sword, I feel giving it some edging would really give it more of a power sword feel than the way it is at the moment. just an edging along there, or doing something like that, I think would really help it just tremendously. This guy I like a bit more because the way that you've done up the power claws, I like that look when it comes to the sort of electrostatic, charged feel to them. I think that looks really cool. Um, I think when it comes to the white, oh, it's it's just miserable working with white. I'm just going to say that coming from somebody who has been working with it this week, don't give yourself too much of a hard time. I don't think that there's much more that you can do with the white. I think that there are areas where you've done well with it and areas where you haven't done as well. So I like the shoulder pads. I like this here. The interior in there, I don't think looks as good as any of the exterior pieces. I think like when you've got those black lines, I think that really detracts from it quite a bit. But I think you're basically doing the best that you can, man. And it is hard working with white. It is hard. So don't give yourself too much of a hard time. All right. So next up, we've got Brushstrokes, who's been working on this for a while. And apparently he can't be here due to having a family, having a life, spending time with people. I know, I know. Who wouldn't want to be here with this crazy Australian at the moment? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I think he's driven me to the drink. Just driven me to the drink. All right, Brushstroke. So we will see some more from that, but I am really liking how the furs come up. All right. So uh, after having a conversation with Brushstrokes, and this thing that went a bit viral in the hobby community, the massive voodoo blog spot, and it's done up by, I'm trying to remember his name right now, but I've got it, it's linked right here. So the big thing is, I really hope that you guys found this article useful, and I'd really love to get your thoughts on this article. So it's while there is a lot from this in here, there are some direct passages. I did put in a lot of my own words to this. This is mostly my own words, and I hope that you guys found it useful. And I would really love some of your feedback on it, because I'm thinking of doing this once a week and doing something like it. So not every topic will be on imposter syndrome, but sort of going over how people feel when it comes to painting and some of the problems that they come to. Painter's block, not feeling that you've grown, all of that sort of thing. So tell me what you guys thought of this little section here, and I will reply to that, of course, and hopefully we might do something more like this. But yeah. Alright, so Brushstroke said, thanks Calidors, found the piece I just sent you really interesting and it hit chord with it. Mostly I found it reassuring to hear that it's not uncommon to have thoughts of being an imposter, not worthy to be in certain groups, and you'll be exposed as a fake at any moment. And that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is a work in progress by Brushstrokes, right? And let's just say that he's far from our least talented member. I'd give myself that moniker. But the thing is, even he felt that. Even he felt that, at times it's all just false praise. Nobody really thinks that well of him. But that's how people go when it comes to these sorts of things. Alright, So next up, we've got Tony Sylvie and his Wacky Races stuff. So he's been mostly working on converting. We do see some brilliant works in progress here with the actual driver himself. Oh, we do. Do we get to see it fully finished up? Not quite as of yet. So those industrial stripes have come together just beautifully, just beautifully. So hopefully we will see that done up later on in the thread. We are still live, right? I am still here. There are still people in the comment section, right? You guys are still here, right? I hope you're still here. No one's saying anything. I'm definitely not having any negative reactions to the silence and the imposter syndrome. Not at all. All right. So next up, we've got Filthy, and Filthy's been working on this bad boy for some time, and I think that he's come together really nicely. He's not quite finished as of yet, but I tell you what, he is certainly getting there. But I really like this. And this is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm talking about color contrast, and especially violent color contrast, right? That that just draws such attention to the model, and it makes you want to look at it more. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about clashing colors, right? It's all right for colors not to blend in with one another because it draws the eye. Oh, had to go to lunch. Geez, needing to sustain your own life. Davith. Oh no. How could you? All right. Next up, we've got Waxer, and he's finished up some of his Dead Zone, sorry, not Dead Zone, Warzone Resurrection, and I think that this guy's come together really nicely. So first off, I like the blended camouflage effect, right? But what I particularly like about it is it has one of those tank sort of feels to it, in that you've got that chipping on the model here, right? You've got the little scratches here and there, and when you take a look at it, right, it feels as if it could be something that is real, right? And I think that when it comes to that sort of thing, that's that's a particular talent, to have it feel like it's a future historical model. So I think that that looks really, really good. I love the way that he's done it. The basings come together beautifully. I love the little shrub here against all of that grass and bare earth. I think that that looks awesome. Um, there's not much I can say due to the scheme that he went for, because I think that he's given all of the contrast of kind that he can, in doing up the parts in the different styles that he can, especially on the back when it comes to some of its jet turbines and such. But yeah, I think that he's done a really good job, and make sure that he's getting that love. But I think that he's done really well, and I like seeing. Oh, we do get to see them all finished up, so he's done quite a bit here. All right, so I do like the look of these guys with that great clash of colours. So you've got the orange hoods against these green masks, right? Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And then you take a look at the way that he's done up that basing. Oh, gorgeous. These rusted out pipes with, you know, just moss growing all over it. And it gives this great feel of nature reclaiming an area, right? Just absolutely phenomenal. I do like the blades, but I don't know, them being very dark the way they are, I feel that they don't suit these guys as much as they should. But when I take a look at that blade, I feel like that's the way they're meant to be, dark most everywhere else except a very bright, edge to the blade. I think that feels much, much better. But yeah, I really, really like that. Um, so he's also done up these guys, and when you take a look at that absolutely beautiful basing before, I feel that I've really been let down with this basing right here. I'm not a huge fan of the color scheme, but I have a feeling that he didn't choose this color scheme, that is their color scheme. But I feel that these browns could be highlighted with a bit of orange on them to sort of give that clashing color to these right here, because I feel that these don't pop off the table in the same way that these guys right here do. Um, I feel that they just sort of blend into the background. And I think when it comes to miniatures, you really want things to pop. So I'm just going to have a quick word on the imposter syndrome stuff and go back to it. Andre77 said, finished my pizza and I really like the post about the imposter syndrome, especially the artist area. People are suffering under this, but there are others who are grown on by using it. I'm sorry, you've broken up there a bit at the end. I'm going to blame the pizza grease and a shuffling keyboard. Alright, next up, we've got Laughing Boy. And oh my good lord, this right here was utterly gorgeous. I absolutely love this model. And it seems like everybody else did as well. It is just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. um, the thing is, when I take a look at this, it feels as if it is a real creature, right? Obviously, it's something that couldn't exist the way that it's done up, right? But it feels as if it could exist in its paint job. You know, that realistic feel to everything. The way that it's got, you know, these highlights in its segmented shell. All of that. It just feels utterly gorgeous. There's not much more that I can say than that. I love these little hits of yellow against the red. Those deep sea blue eyes against the blue of the actual water. Mwah! Just beautiful. And of course, the blackness of those claws, right? It feels so real. And not to mention all of its little pockmarks and scars. Utterly gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. I think that this is one of Laughing Boy's best pieces in a while, and I mean, I think it might take him a while to top it, because there is so much to love about this. Like, even the way that he's done up the teeth, they seem real. All of it is just so utterly gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. Just, oh, it is beautiful. Just beautiful. Alright, next up we've got Sadonis Polinios. Laughing Boy lies mostly, and says mostly completely an accident. And I'm taking a look at it, and it's looking fairly deliberate to me. Alright, so next up we've got Sadonis Polinios, also commonly known as an Andy, and he has done up some Vietnam War stuff. And I think that it's looking pretty good, but I do believe that this scale is the biggest problem. So this is something that you always have to remember when you're taking a look at people's models, right? When you take a look at something, right, remember the scale they're working with. Not only the scale, but the type of scale. So, for example, 28mm and 28mm heroic are two very different things. 28mm heroic follows a more homunculi-like proportions to the human body, whereas 28mm is usually closer to realistic if they don't state that it's heroic. They usually try for a more realistic approach to the body, despite the fact that a lot of times they'll be exaggerated. But when you take a look at this, 15mm is a horrid scale to paint in my opinion. It's it's fine for tanks and such, but when it comes to actual infantrymen, I think that you take a look at this, right, and I think that he's done a tremendous job in differentiating a number of things, right? Getting those highlights on this, I think looks beautiful, right? You can very much tell exactly what this person is, what each of their baubles is, that sort of thing, right? But you are fighting the model the whole way when you're doing this. But another thing, I take a look at this, and it is utterly gorgeous the way that he has done up this base. Just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, I think that he's done really, really well. Alright, next up we've got Cap John. I see what you did there. Cap John. And he's doing up his, I do believe this is the Walking Dead set, and it's come together really, really nicely. So this is his first ever post, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to thank you guys so much. I want to thank you guys so much for giving him so much love on his very first post, ladies and gentlemen. And if one of you guys just wants to timestamp this time right now and send the link of this to him when it's done, I would absolutely love that, because I think that he's done an utterly gorgeous job. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know how he's gotten on my good books. Take a look at those bases. Oh, those bases, ladies and gentlemen, just gorgeous. Look at them. Tuffets of grass, bits of rock, gravel, plain bits of earth. Oh, he's got it all right there. It looks so good. Oh baby, just so good. But back on to it being more serious for a moment. One of the things that I particularly like about what he's done is the way that he's got this great contrast between the survivor here and all of the zombies. So the zombies, right, have a particularly eclectic feel to them, and what I do like is that he's got a great different contrast between the zombies, right? So we have some of our more fresh zombies here, right? I also love this pose. What is this pose right here? Just caw caw with that zombie right there. But the thing is, take a look at the way that he's done decaying skin over here, and even a different level of decaying skin right there in the background. Just little details like that are beautiful, right? And you take a look at her, right? Beautiful, clean clothing. White clothing too, ladies and gentlemen. That in of itself is worthy of how much he's gotten right there. But the other thing is, right, take a look at the way that he's done the skin. That is just utterly gorgeous, just beautiful. Mwah. Right? So yeah, really, really well done on that. And he has given us one zoom up on one of these guys. So take a look, ladies and gentlemen. He's done the eyes. That, ladies and gentlemen, gives a tip of the hat. But of course, it wouldn't be WAYPN without me trying to give some feedback to him, which he can use to improve his painting. And the biggest thing that I take a look at right here is yellow hair. So a lot of you will know of Gorilla with the Brushes tutorial on how to do blonde hair. And I think that that's something that he could really, really use, because you take a look at all of this, right, and that's the only thing that really stands out to me. I think, you know, going through the bone colors, doing up some nice blonde hair, that would help improve things a lot. I do feel that the white's a bit white, but once again, the problem with white is that if you try and dirty it up, it's it's a bit of a bugger to work with. I do really like what he's done with all of these guys, and I love the variety of, zombie flesh tones that he's given. So I think that he's done phenomenally well, and I think his big thing that he wants to work on is blonde hair. Calidorus 2 says, all the models look good too. Alright, next up we've got Inu53, and he's working on something completely different. And he's been doing up his bases. And ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing that gets me more hot and bothered than some beautiful, beautiful bases. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are some beautiful bases. Just gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. And he goes through his whole process and what he's trying to accomplish here, right? He's talking about how he's trying to go for a ruined or abandoned city, and something different than just concrete blocks, trying to get that rebarb look, trying to get, the feeling of an abandoned city. And I think that he's done really well in getting that effect. I do believe if these are meant to be sort of manhole sort of things, I think that you got to do up like road, but then you get into a sort of tricksy area of it, doing road with one part and doing dirt with another. I think that that's a bit of a dangerous path, but I do think that it's looking really, really nice. So I think if you're going to add anything to these, just, some of those tufts of the yellow grass, I think that would be the only thing if you were going to add anything to this, because I think they're looking absolutely beautiful. Next up, we've got the man, the myth, the legend. He's too sexy, too furious. It's Ben. And he has come along and done up something very, very nice. He's done it up with, I do believe, some washes and a bit of dry brushing here and there, because I take a look at that and the way that he's really lightened that area up. But I tell you what, these models are looking pretty damn nice. I do think that the Mini has come out alright, as you say. I really do like the great mix of colours. And remember what I say, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to metallics. Remember, think of your metallics as colours, not as metallics in of themselves. So we've got the yellow contrasting against the blue there. And of course, the steel, a different kind of blue, contrasting against the yellow, which I think looks particularly nice. I do feel that if this cloth right here was red, I think that that would really help the miniature just pop. But other than that, I think that it's looking really, really nice. And I think that going for that very sort of simplistic look, not going over the top, I think does help. Because we know Ben, he wants to get his stuff smashed out so he can game with it a bit. But Ben, you're killing me here. Take a look at that base. It's all grass, Ben. I know you can do better than this, Ben. I know you can. Just, why do you try and hurt me like this, Ben? It's enough to drive a man to drink. Just oh no. I think I'm going to have to go on to my next bottle, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, next up, we've got Taurus. And Taurus is doing some more of his 6mm stuff. Alright, so he's just waiting for the tufts to arrive. And then he's going to be finishing these guys up. Now, once again, I won't go off my whole thing about judging in scale, but I do think that that is something that you very much got to keep in mind. But I do think that they're looking nice. I do like how, you've got those spots of color on each of these guys. I really do think that that helps bring them out a bit. I think that I'd like a photo with a bit better lighting. I think that that would really help things out. But other than that, I think that they're looking nice. And I won't judge until they're fully finished up when we've got those extra bits of basing done up on them. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I think thus far how they're looking, considering their scale, they're looking pretty nice. I would say if you're going to do anything, I'd give a bit more variety on the horses. You know, being all mono brown, you know, I think makes it a bit hard, you know, giving them some spots, that sort of thing. Just really give yourself any opportunity you can to give some contrast to these guys, because when you're working in that scale, it is going to be tragic. It's going to be a lot of effort. All right, next up we've got Tony Sylvie, and he's all finished up. And take a look at that base, ladies and gentlemen. Utterly gorgeous. I love it. You know, that sort of Arizona, California desert sort of look. I think that that looks just beautiful. I really love these multicolored rocks right here. I think that that looks utterly gorgeous. Just everything about that base is beautiful. I love the dust effect that he's add to the industrial stripings. I think that looks really good. You know, the zero mouth right there, I think that looks absolutely phenomenal. I think the guy himself, you know, looks quite crazy and quite over the top, and I think that the model very much suits him. But I have to say, you know, seeing this all done up, it really does seem to fit together quite nicely. Take a look at that, you know, more of that industrial striping right there, or I should say checker marking right there. It is just absolutely beautiful. I think that it's come together just so well. I have to say that I think there's not a whole lot to judge this model by. I'd say the only thing that could really improve it at all is a bit of chipping here and there. Like the metal feels extremely bright, but other than that, like I don't have anything extra that I could really give as feedback to it. Laughing Boy says, very cool. Richard Build says, love the hot rod, and the rockets on the side area are absolutely ace. I have to agree. I think that it's come together just beautifully. It is an absolutely gorgeous model that you've put together. So well done on that. All right. Next up, we have more from Brainfowler. Is it more? I am unsure. But some more from Brainfowler. And I'm just going to check because I usually thumbs up everyone, but some of the times I miss things. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. No. I got them. Just for some reason, not Brainfowler stuff. All right. So Escher's mostly base coated. Mostly for Necromunda. So these are not yet finished up. So we're going to be seeing some more on these. But I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at that industrial striping. Just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. But I think that these guys are going to look beautiful, just filled with color. I love that. I always love seeing models with quite a bit of color on them. All right. And he's attempting to make some of his own Age of Sigmar scoundrels. Alright. So, come on, work with me here. Let's take a bit of a closer look if we can. Hopefully, maybe, yes, no? I do believe we'll be able to zoom in, but I'll just wait for it to load for a second. So I do like these guys. I've seen some of these guys done up before. Here we go. So I really like the way that he's done up the pants. I think that that's come together really nicely. Take a look at the smoothness done up on those pants. I do believe that the horizontal stripings let him down just a bit, but take a look at those eyes right there. Just beautiful. And I really like the way that he's incorporated both old and new elements into these. So that's one of the new Fire Slayer Dwarf picks with his set of keys right there. But You know, he's got one of those old blunderbusses. So I think that comes together really nicely, mixing those two. The other thing is this bit over here, the head of the Zangor comes from the... Oh, it's going to kill me. I'm not going to remember its name now. Age of Sigmar Silver Tower box set. The Dothra Warlord or Chieftain or Dothra warrior or something. He's a chaos guy, and yeah. So I think that's come together really nicely. I don't know this model, but I've seen him before. I think that once again, we've got the sort of golden hair here more than the blonde hair, but I do think that the gold hair might be more by choice because he's sort of invoking that sort of comic book-esque, you know, Conan feel to this guy. And I think that that's come together really nicely. But that little bit of converting right there, I think is beautiful. You know, it's seamless. You don't really notice it at all, especially when you're looking from this angle. It doesn't really feel off at all. But yeah, I think that he's come together quite nicely. All right. So next up, we've got... It's the very first Valtren model. Valten model? I do not know who that is. Alright, so next up we've got Panzer Kaput, and he's doing up some guys for his Gangs of Rome. So he's doing up some African black skin, and I think it has come out fairly well. I do like around the chest, but I feel that the face is looking pretty plain, and I feel that the hair's feeling pretty plain. I feel that the cloth could be brought up quite a bit more for that additional level of contrast, but I do feel that it really does suit the model, the skin tone with that fuzzy hair there. I think that that fits really nice. And I have to say, I really like the way that he's done up this basing right here. I think that it's come together really nicely. You know, those little weeds peeking up through the ground. I think that is just beautiful. But I do feel that he could tone the gold down a bit on the brace, because I feel that it looks a bit more like a gold than a bronze. So 1 second, we got a comment on this guy right here for Brainfowler. So came in 3 flavors in the run-up to the old Storm of Chaos campaign: Blacksmith, Mounted Champion, and then Badass Elven Steed. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so like that color tone there, I think that would suit more of the skirt there itself. I think that would fit the model quite a bit more. But other than that, I think it is looking pretty good, and I think, you know, it takes a bit of skill to learn how to do up African skin. Like the biggest thing is, you know, you look at yourself every single day just passively. You see your hands, you see everything about it, and that is the skin tone that you're going to know how to do up. And you're going to know what's wrong and what's right. And so you've got to look up references, that sort of thing, to do up other skin tones, or at least I do. Alright, so I think that he's done really well, and I do want to say one thing. I really like that he's given us these backgrounds that he's shot in, right? They're fairly neutral, but I love seeing, you know, people in the gaming system in which they're actually playing. Alright, Andre77 says the sandworm is 95% done. You will love the mouth. I always love mouths. No, wait. I can't say that on air. I'll get in trouble. No. What I meant to say is... No, worms and mouths. No, I do believe that will get me into trouble. Never... What are you trying to do to me, Andre? Alright, so next up we've got Inu53, and he's done up some More bad boys here. I do not know the company in of themselves, but I tell you what, I do love this paint job. That glowing blue compared to this dull red. Oh, gorgeous contrast. And take a look at those bases, ladies and gentlemen. Utterly gorgeous. Adding that little bit of foliage to them. Mwah, just beautiful. Just beautiful. Take a look at these guys, right? That beautiful, beautiful edging right there. That glow that they have to all of their power pack areas. That is utterly, utterly gorgeous. I absolutely love these things. Um, I don't know what game this is, but I do know. Oh, they're Gates of Antares. Yeah, so David says that these Gates of Antares. I absolutely love the way that you've done these up, man. I guess the only thing I could do is the sort of mirrored vision effect for the visors, you know, where you go from a darker blue into a lighter blue. That's that's all I could say, man. That's the only area where I could think to improve. And I mean, I'm really just stretching here. And take a look at these little details on the base, like that little strip of paint there on the concrete. Oh, utterly gorgeous. These guys are absolutely beautiful. Um, Calidors 2 says they're from Warlord, and Andre77 says, I concur, they are absolutely beautiful. But, oh man, just like, I really wish that there was something more that I could say on these, you know, some sort of way to improve these, because, you know, I want these things on screen just a little more, man. Just a little more. They're just utterly beautiful. Alright, next up we've got Hutch, and he's doing some classic Prussians, not Prussonians at all. And for those of you who are following the backstage shenanigans, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think that they're coming together really nicely. I love this uniform. I really love the uniforms of this time because they have such color contrast. I like the way that he's done really bold, striking colors in patterns within this. Take a look here, the way that he's done those stripes, right? Now, it's not going to pass the 3-inch rule, right? But he's not looking to pass the 3-inch rule with this artillery gun, because that's not the goal with that, right? People will pick up guys, they won't pick up pieces of artillery, right? Or at least most people I know. But it really gives a level of depth to that piece, and I think that that's come together really, really well. So well done, Hutch. So I think that it's come together beautifully. I do, however, would like a bit more on that facing. You know, just a rock, just something extra. Nothing too much, just a tiny bit extra, and I think that they'll look just perfect. But yeah, loving it. I'm absolutely loving what you've got there. Alright, and then it's something from moi. And my mate came over, and we just banged these out in like an hour or so. They're the, oh, what are they called? The Hobbit terrain set. And so we went over, so we just airbrushed on the base, and then, you know, brushed on some different colors for the boards, and it came up just beautiful. Just beautiful. I think that's my opinion at least, but I really liked it, and he was really happy too. But that's not really mine. That's more him, but I like how it came up. Alright, next up we've got David doing some works in progress, as he does. And yeah, he likes to take it slow and not do a million models at once. Never doing up a million models at once. You know, him and Oriskany just does one or two at a time. That's how they do. Just one or two at a time. Alright, then we have some more work in progress from Brushstrokes, and utterly beautiful, and it is coming along nicely. Take a look at the way that that's picked up. Just lovely. Oh, that tartan, just gorgeous. All right. Next up, we've got Collins, and Collins is doing up something new. And this is somebody who's coming back to us. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for showing him the love. And it's Ahsoka, and she's from the Star Wars Rebel series. She is the apprentice to good old Darth before he was Darth. And yeah, I think she's come together really nicely, particularly the way that he's done the patterning. You know, that white against that blue, mwah, just beautiful. The way that he's done the symbols in here, mwah, just beautiful. And just these little dots of color on her, gorgeous, utterly gorgeous. And I will forgive the basing not having anything, as it is a clear base, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, take a look at that. He's even managed eyes, ladies and gentlemen. That's beautiful. I hope we give him a lot more love, because that is just wow, ladies and gentlemen. That is intense, and the way that that blue fade comes in, just beautiful on those lightsabers. Just beautiful. So I think that he has done really well. Next up, we've got Doug the Ferg, who has been working some more on these Deathwing guys. And he's been doing a stab at doing freehand for the shoulder pad symbols. So, Andre77 just wanted to say on this bit right here, wonderful. And I completely agree, man. So let's take a look at his freehand. Hopefully we will see the freehand. I reckon that's come together really well. If that's freehand, that is really good, man. That is intense. That is an intense level of freehand, man. I really like it. So once again, it's pretty much the same things as I said before. You know, I think going white on white feathers, you're asking for trouble. But one thing that I would do is I'd go into bone rather than white with that skull there. Give yourself every opportunity to contrast your white from other whites. And that's why I want to stay away from the feathers, because like if they match something within this, you're going to have a hard time. But the other thing is, I feel that this basing needs just one thing more. But yeah, the one thing that I really do love on this is the way that he does up these Aquillas. Take a look at that green, ladies and gentlemen, and that industrial striping is just beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Just beautiful. Andre says, I would give the skull a very thin down sepia tone. Yeah, just hitting it up with a sepia wash could do the trick. But yeah, just something like that. Yeah, there's not much more I can say other than what I have said on these guys. I do think that he's done really well in giving that differentiation there. I do think that he's done well with the industrial striping, and I love the Aquillas. I do feel that the steel badges are very bright though, but I do believe that that is a choice for them to be very bright. So, you know, that's the way it goes. But just a little bit extra on that basing, and I think that they'll come up just that much, just that bit extra. All right, next up we've got Davith, and Davith is uploading stuff from mobile. You know how I know this? Because when I load this, it'll come up the right way around when we get back to it. So let us move on for the moment, and we will come back to some beautiful Guild Ball models, which are a work in progress. And then I don't know what it is, man, but I do know that it's common. See, I knew it even before he said that about the phone flipping them around. Next up, we've got Calidor's 2 and his dwarves here. So Calidor's 2, you know, alright, so one sec, I'm just going to scroll back to the Terminators, and Mage says dark tone on the Crux Terminators and a silver highlight. Yeah, that really could bring things up, but I think he'll most probably I think he'll most probably want a strong tone rather than dark tone. Dark tone would bring it down a tremendous amount. All right. So there is them done up that way. Well, if it's on your desktop, David, you've just got to flip them around. For some reason, the mobile always does that. You're gonna have to open them up and save them. I know it's a pain. It is a pain. But yes, we're seeing some lovely color on these people, and I will very much enjoy seeing them all done up. So, Calidorus 2 has finished painting his dwarves, and I tell you what, take a look at that blonde right there. Utterly gorgeous. It's a very interesting shade of blue that he's chosen, so it's a sort of off sky blue. It's a really interesting blue, and I think that it really draws the eye, especially when it's contrasted against the beards. Not as much the dark beard, but against the orange beard, the blonde beard, the brown beards. I think that looks just lovely, just lovely. I do like the way that he's done the skin, and I'm going to zoom in on these with any hope. And I think one of the things that I can see from this distance is he's done up the eyes, and that in of itself is a tremendous effort. But not only that, look at the white of the horn, just beautiful. Mwah. Just beautiful. But you do know that this is WAYPN, and I've always got to give them a hard time, especially when they do something like this to me. Take a look at those bases, ladies and gentlemen. There is nothing on those bases. These models are not finished. They're not finished at all. Here's Dirty Liar. He has not finished them at all. But yeah, take a look at the way that he's done up the eyes. I think that these have come together really, really nicely, the eyes. I think that the beards have come up nicely. I like that bronzy gold look to all of them. And I like the way that he's done up the edges. I think that all of that looks really great. And the bone, white on this is just gorgeous. I think that maybe hitting an edge on the shirts here might help give that extra contrast of kind. But these bases, man, you hit them up with a nice fertile green field or something like that, and you'll have a great contrast between the base and the guys with that blue. I think that would look just beautiful, man. I think that would look just beautiful. So the cloths are a base of Fang Grey, and the highlights use Rust Grey and Benrizian Grey. Yeah, so I've seen these blues before, but they do look really nice. But you need to do up those bases, man. You know that you're trying to trigger me here. You know it. Know it. All right. So next up, we've got Laughing Boy with some more of these guys, and see. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about people having particular talents. So I think that this guy's come together all right. When you take a look at the monstrous parts come up really nicely. But I feel that the clothes aren't on that same level. We see a number of other guys here, right? And that's the feeling that I get from all of these guys. You take a look at, so like the crabs on her, this unusual mystical sort of thing that's bursting out of her hand, the knives, all of that looks great, right? But the clothes sort of let him down quite a bit. I do really think that this red shirt comes together just beautifully, but then the blue skin and the yellowish hair, especially with those yellow eyes, I feel lets him down so much, especially when you're so like you've got these to contrast against, right? So this guy just looks gorgeous, just so gorgeous, right? And then you're fighting against cloth like this. I think he's having a bit of trouble getting that sort of contrast of kind and getting transitions between colors. That is definitely what I would work on, man. Um, I would also, like, even now, I'd hit that up and do that as a blonde rather than the yellow. You know, go through the bones like Gorilla with a Brush recommends. If you just search blonde hair Gorilla with a Brush, you should find it. Um, but you take a look at whenever there's a monstrous element, whenever there's a thing, right? He does beautifully. Like I love this cloth right here. I think that comes together well. That's blended well. I do feel, however, the dress underneath not nearly as good. But you know the giblets in here. You know this bucket in of itself. You know that white tinny metal. The red shirt. All of that looks beautiful. And I don't know. I just feel that you really let yourself down on this one. And that you can do better. I know you can, man. Um, I didn't enjoy this guy nearly as much, but I think that he looks fine. There's no problem with him. It's just that he's being compared to this monstrosity here, where you've just done such a phenomenal job that you know when he's always going to be being compared to him, it's going to be a bit rough. But I'm not going to blame that on your paint job, you know, because I do think that a lot of the paint job's done up nicely, you know, with the teeth, with the way that you've done that sort of things. You take a look at the model and it has not nearly the level of detail that this bad boy here does. So that's some of the times people are fighting the models when they're painting stuff up. Now, I think after, oh no, we've got one more. Oriskany, I do believe, is doing some works in progress here. And as I have told all of you guys, there is a reason why I love seeing works in progress, because it gets you an idea of how people work through things. And see, that is why I love seeing works in progress, because just as some people feel like they can't measure up, that they're an imposter. One of the things that you know really helps with that is seeing works in progress, because they see that and they go, "Oh, I see that level of effort that's put in here. I see just how much work goes into making something up the way that it is." And I think that that really, really helps people. Alright, next up we've got Sotonus Polinius, and he's doing a very special doggo, a Spectre's Operation doggo, and it's come together really nicely. I like the way that he's used exaggerated brushstrokes on this to give that patterning to the dog. I think that that looks really nice, and of course the camouflage is just beautiful. And I tell you what, I love the face paint with these guys. It is just utterly gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. Just gorgeous. I think that these guys have come together just so well, just so well. And I love how you've got that little bit of skin behind, right? Because that's the way that it is in real life when you see these guys, you know, and just, oh, in some terrible cases where you don't see them. Usually if you don't see them, you're in a lot of trouble. Because that means you're the enemy. For those of you who know the song I am referencing. But yeah, utterly beautiful work. Utterly beautiful. But once again, spacing. It's so sparse. Look at it. What has happened? We live in such a fertile and beautiful world, and then I take a look at this and I wonder what has happened. Oh, poor German Shepherd. He longs for his lush homeland of Deutschland. Why? This dog, and he calls out Germany. For those of you who have watched that particular show that I am referencing just then. Alright, next up we've got Sheldon09, and he has been working on his Drop Fleet Commander stuff. And the way that he goes through things, I think, really helps. So he shows that he starts off with the zenith highlight, then he goes through each of these things, and as you see them done up, you'll see how he does them up and how that comes through, right? And I think that these things really, really help people because you get the idea of how people do these things, right? And so I want to talk about this itself for a minute, but what I want to do is I want to talk about the whole process. Seeing this process of stuff really, really does help people out. So I really like the difference of kind from the engine block in the back to the ship itself, right? And you know all of these purple lights contrasted against the blue, just beautiful. And you'll notice the ship in of itself has this subtle blue effect on it, and I think that it looks absolutely phenomenal the way that it looks. And those blue thrusters on the back contrasting against all of that sort of off steel look, beautiful, just gorgeous. As for what he could improve, I'd say only here, giving an extended glow effect. Um, that is that is all I could really see here. But I'm not very familiar with Dropship Commander or Space Fleet sort of styles of painting, so it's very hard for me to give stuff on which people could improve. Richard Build says, back, those ships are fantastic, great eye for colour and contrast. Absolutely dead on that one. And I absolutely love that you guys have given him just as much love for feedback as you have for his things. Commentary by Calidors. Accents, hello, hello. That's a nice bit of muff there. Good old G.I. Joe. And Atmage says, going back and forth, that spaceship is so cool and so sexy. Yes, the spaceship is utterly gorgeous. Alright, and he just said, for me, cracking job on the wood and buildings. The effect works well. Thank you very much, my man. Next up, we've got Panzer Kaput and an utterly beautiful Gangs of Rome lady. And she's come together quite nicely. I really like that smooth blending in there. Take a look at that. I do think like that little spot there does ruin the yellow just a tad. But I mean, you've got it's hard. It's hard. I know that he's trying to give a sort of level of depth. You know, give that idea of the way that the skirt naturally sits. But I think that we all know how much we love yellow, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? So I think that that's all right. But once again, I think with the skin, with those solid brush strokes, I think that he wants to work on that a bit more because they're so solid and they so match the way that he does the clothes that it seems to be of a very similar style. But one thing I will say is I'm loving these bases, ladies and gentlemen. These bases are utterly gorgeous. They feel so thematic. I love the way that he's added detail to them. I love the stones in of themselves. Everything about it is utterly, utterly gorgeous. All right, and now, ladies and gentlemen, as per usual, it's I did up something especially today just before because the heat died down for just a minute so that you guys could give me a hard time. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put the music on and you guys can give me your feedback. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's put it on and I'll leave you to it for just a minute. And I've returned, ladies and gentlemen, but it is time for my bludgeoning because yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did do something up, and I'm not 100% on her, but I did the best I could considering the limits. All right. Uh, all right. At Mage says, get him. So Andre77 said, did you forget the wash? No, I started with the wash and then I built up from there. Richard Build says, liking the white, but I think you need to thin your flesh tone down a bit more. So yeah, I started with a wash and then I built back up. But yeah, I can see very much how that looks. Um, AppMade says I think the base rim could do with being black or grey or something. The model has a lot of light tones, white skulls. The object source lighting from the lantern would be good. Yes, object source lighting would be good, but object source lighting is a tremendous amount of effort, and if you want to do it properly, I think that you have to do it in a very sort of different way to the way a lot of people do it. So you do up the rest of the model and then you sort of highlight up in the areas where the glow is. So you've really got to work hard with that. Alright, Mage says the hair is done pretty well, but I would have chosen a different color to contrast with the lantern, even more like a golden blonde or a fiery red. So I'm just going with the hair colors of the people themselves. So one is like a platinum blonde, one is black hair, one is red hair, you know, and I'm just doing them in more their classic sort of tones. But, ladies and gentlemen, not only do I have that for you, but I have something completely different. So, as some of you will know, I have been working on my game. And one of the things that I have been doing up is I've been doing up the guiding principles of my game. And one of the things that uh, Richard Build says, I don't think the sculpt is doing you any favors. I don't know. I think that the sculpt is actually pretty nice. I think it's maybe the angle that I'm doing it at. That might be me. So I wanted to get some more feedback from you guys because one of the things that I think that is really important in gaming is not the is not the rules as written, but the intent behind the rules. Now, for those of you who have played War Machine, I'm sure that you have played against somebody who's referred to the infamous page 5, playing with balls. And they have used that to excuse their poor behavior. I'm trying to make a role-playing game, so I'm trying to make the inverse of that. And what I want to get your guys' opinion on is these one-page guiding principles that I've written up. I've written up one for the players and one for the game master, and I thought I'd just read them out to you and get your opinions on them. Alright, so the Investigator's Handbook slash, this is what the Player's Handbook is called. Rule number 1. Trust your conspirator. Zorval uses very thematic language to evoke a feeling. The conspirator is just the person who runs the game. They are running the world. Remember, if they are playing a villain, it is simply so you have someone to foil. They are also your allies. They are everyone. They are trying to make the greatest custom-made experience they can for you. Both the investigators and the conspirator have the same goal. Make a great story. Do, don't show. Show, don't tell. Unlike in other games, Zorville has you live out your backstory in short sessions before the game. While the game allows for instant character creation, the setting rewards detail. When you play something out, it is more visceral, more real than when you write about it. Show through action, through doing, by being alive. A written backstory is a dead one. Do, don't show. Show, don't tell. Trust your fellow investigators. Role-playing is a team game, not a competition. It is collaborative storytelling as much as a game. All stories involve conflict between characters, even friends and lovers, not just enemies. Some of those characters will be your fellow investigators. If you trust your fellow investigators that they are trying to tell the best stories they can with you, that conflict right now is for that reason. Then you will have better stories, which is your goal and theirs. Roleplay at your best and avoid the worst. You are your investigator. Zorville uses the term investigator, which refers to both player and character at the same time. This is to bring you further into the role of your character. You are your character. You are your investigator. However, your investigator may be bad news, meaner than bathtub moonshine, angrier than a bat out of hell, or horny as a rabbit. You don't have to roll out those more intimate or darker moments with your investigator. To know your investigator is willing to torture is one thing. You role-playing it out is completely another. Just ask the conspirator, can we skip over this part? They will help you out. So will your fellow investigators. We all play roles in life we don't want to, but this is a game, and games are meant to be fun. Great stories can be tragic, but you don't have to be. Reciprocity makes for smooth sessions. This is jazz, beat poetry, and the conspirator is laying down a constant beat, throwing ideas at you, and it is your job to riff off those story beats and create the jazz which is your story. Give back to your conspirator. When they are throwing ideas out, pick them up and run with them. Everything you do in the game shows the conspirator the kind of game you want. Are you following the dirty money to get out of the legal way? Or are you doing favors for bad people so worse go down? You make this story together. So if you don't like the taste of what you're baking, remember you're one of the chefs. All of this is a two-way street. Help everyone make the best story they can, and they will do the same for you. Have trust, have fun, and make a great story. So guys, that was the player side of that. So I'd very much like to know what you guys thought of that. That's basically my rule number one page, which I'm going to be referencing a lot back to in my game, because I feel that a lot in these role-playing games that the spirit behind the game is more important. So I would really like to hear your feedback. I'm gonna find a particularly gorgeous model to gawk at while I wait for your guys' feedback, and of course blather on in the meantime. I think we shall look at the Germans. Yeah, the Germans are looking very pretty. Yeah. Oh, utterly gorgeous, just gorgeous, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully everything is still running smoothly. But yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that, because I feel that This is the one thing that I'm going to need to work on a lot in my game. Um, I'll I'll post a link to it in the chat so you guys can go and take a look. But yeah, I just love to know your thoughts on it. And that is pretty much it. There's a lot of silence. I'm feeling very judged. It's alright, it's alright. I'm sure that you guys are click-clacking away as we go. I think what I will do is I will move on to the next bit. I'll move on to the Conspirator's Handbook, which is the game master for this game, and I'll read through that while you guys are typing away, and I'll get that feedback. Richard Build says, needs a proper read through to do it justice. For it to look for it on the forums right now. Alright, so this is the Conspirator's Handbook, i.e. the DM, GM's Handbook, whatever you would like to use. Rule number 1. Do, don't show. Show, don't tell. Role-playing has a massive advantage over other mediums that other mediums don't. People are actively participating. It is easier to increase an action than to decrease it. Thus, getting people more into a game is easy. They're already doing it. Talk to them about the perspiration stinging their eyes as they struggle to fight through the burning building. Make them roll to fight the stench of the horrendous. Tell them how she looks like cream and tastes like amber. Have your investigators breathe your Zorval. Trust your investigators. Zorval uses the term investigator instead of character or player, so they are both. They have given you the power to form a whole world, thousands of people, places, and every other little detail of the world. They have one thing, their investigator. That is it. That is all they control. They are trusting you are going to do right by them. You are their referee. You control the world. You do not need to control them. Make a great story not for them but with them. And they will trust you. One of the greatest advantages to having your investigators trust you is reciprocity. They are more likely to gobble plot hooks or speed things up when you need them to. On the reverse side, you understand that they aren't trying to throw your work away. They may not see the plot hook, liked that character, or be interested in that idea. Leave the possibility open that they may love the next. When developing their backstory, they're going to give you the information you need to keep them interested in the game. All you need to do is listen. You're not here to antagonize. You're playing the antagonists. You're the antagonist, not the enemy. All of you are here to have a good time. You may have a great idea for a story, but they foil it every time. Maybe they're genre savvy, or maybe they expected it from you. They're not trying to mess things up. They're just trying to have fun. They just don't want to fall into a trap, that's all. Except they're not just a cog for your story. They're here for the story. Lie frequently and often to the investigators, not your friends. Your role as conspirator is to deceive, mislead, and sometimes flat out lie to the investigators. However, you are not the characters you play. The investigators must trust you as the operator of the world, that you are fair, that it is important to make the clear delineations between you and the characters you're playing. From the voice that you affect to your body language. Make sure that the investigators know when you're a character and when you're the conspirator. These are your friends. Your investigators should be your friends. Some people are not lucky enough to have a group of friends that they roleplay with. Maybe your investigators met up through other means. Still, treat these people as your friends. Blaming a player for something going wrong, even if it is because of them, is unlikely to lead to better experiences. Doubting your ability to run the game, or an investigator's ability to play, won't help you or them grow as gamers. Be confident, play well. Have trust, have fun, and make a great story. So, Andre77 says, role-playing is not my favorite hobby at the moment due to some hard grasping reasons. Somebody's grasping you hardly? That's not the kind of role-playing I'm talking about, my man. That is not the kind of role-playing I'm talking about. Alright, so let's finish out the weekly WAYPN, and hopefully you guys can give me some feedback on those. Alright, so apparently we got some stuff in just before we ended. So I'll try and get through all of this before the night ends. So we've got 2 more things to go on. Do we have anything more after this, ladies and gentlemen? I do not know, but if we do tell me in the comments. Alright, so we've got that building that we saw in the background of the Gangs of Rome particular piece. And I always love seeing that when you click it and you're like, 1 thumbs up, 4 thumbs up. So you know that other people are loving what he's done. I really like the way that he's done the white and the red on this. I think that it's come together very nicely. I think that that is very sort of Romanesque, the way that he's done it. I'm not sure about this sort of sandy effect. I feel like maybe adding some gravel to it might help, but I can understand why he wants it to be plain, just for gaming reasons. Oh yes, your worm, is it? Oh, so it's alright. We don't have to worry too much about it. No, I'll load it up. I'm gonna load it up in the background now while we're looking at this. So the thing with this is, I think that the sand is looking particularly. I like the effect that he's going for, but it just frustrates me because I feel that it should feel more textural. But I do really like the way that the white has come up. I think that that's very, very nice because it has that feeling of a real building. Whereas I think if it was more just a plain stark white, I don't think it would have that same sort of feel to it. But yeah, so not too much. But yeah, Andre77 says, very well done MDF painting, and it's still looking good. Alright, next up we've got Richard Builds, and Richard has been, and once again, I love seeing that little thing there. Alright, has been working on doing some terrain for his Saurus guys. You know, I really think that you should enter an Armies on Parade, man, because you doing up all of this stuff looks amazing, and I would love to see you win an Armies on Parade. Alright, Richard Build says, paint job is good on the Roman buildings, but those MDF joints scream out at me. Yes, I know that all too well, man. You've got to get those plastic joints for them, sort of thing, to cover them up. They're just, it's a bit of a nightmare. You know, it's just hard to do. The only thing that I've ever really seen fix them up is when you putty over them and then you sand down that putty so that it's flush with them. But other than that, I just cover them up with the what's it called? Those plastic joints that you can get. I'm not going to remember the company who does them. But once again, Richard Builds in the outdoors taking photos. I always love that he's in the outdoors taking photos. And we see some beautiful, beautiful lizard men done up here. I love the bright gold of them. It really really, really helps reinforce that Aztec theme. And this looks gorgeous. You know, it's very reminiscent of the Native American totems, and it's a great integration of both of those themes within them. I think that that looks utterly fantastic. And just honestly, guys, just imagine this being on a table at Armies on Parade. Just he could just do a plain 2x2 board, and it would just look utterly gorgeous. We all know it would. We all know it would. All right. So let's bring the other one into this, and we will be done for the night after this. Alright, so Chlorophyll is our latest bloke, and we will scroll our way up. Alright, cool. So next up we've got Laughing Boy, and speaking of the accursed white, Laughing Boy has been working on his Mythos miniature cultist. And yeah, it's... No, you... Alright, Richard, you're not a long way off from entering in Armies on Parade. And yes, I have seen those entries. You're not a long way off from entering an Armies on Parade, man. You do up a 2x2 board, and you're golden, man. The way that you've got those painted up, you just have to do the rims around the edges of those things, and I think that you could take it, man. I think that you could take it. All right, so the last Mythos miniature, and the whitest Mythos miniature. So, oh man, I would cry doing this up. The way that he's gotten two different types of white within here, a darker white up the top, just there's not much I can say other than that white is a nightmare. I don't think that this white has been pulled off as much as this one down here. I feel that the head of the cloak, while it looks really good from this angle, doesn't look as good from this angle. But I'm not really going to give you a really hard time on that one, because you're painting white, man. White is a nightmare. We all know this. Everyone who paints knows that white is a freaking nightmare. But I think, considering that you're painting white, you have done an amazing job on this. I really like the way that the cloaks come together. I think the white on the back doesn't look nearly as good as the way that you've done it on the front. But yeah, Andre77 says, it's very good done going from a grey to a white. Yeah, I think that he's going for a different kind of white in here, though. You know, that sort of contrast there. But yeah, such is life. Next up, we've got Andre77 with the Sandworm, and it's almost done. Just for Calidors, I will dry brush the base a bit more. Just a bit more. Just a bit more. But yeah, take a look at the way that mouth has come up. That is beautiful, man. I really, really like the look at that. I also like how you've got the helicopter there sort of skirting off, and the way that you've used the base there to have it go as if it is actually trying to dodge the oncoming worm. But yeah, I think that looks really cool. I think the way that the mouth has come together, it looks very, very naturalistic. I think that the outside, the way that you've done the modelled skin, I think that looks good. But I think basically the sand around it is the biggest detriment of it. I think getting the sort of exploding out effect is going to be your biggest problem. I think that you've done really, really, really well with the mouth. So it's going to be hard to have that same level of intensity with the skin. That's going to be a bit of a pain. But other than that, Richard Build says, oh my god, the sandworm mouth. Alright, next up, we've got Chlorophyll, and he's done up another one of the Labyrinth minis. And I think it's come together well. I like the way that he's done the skin. I think the eyes have come together well. The white is fine, as we've been talking about a lot with white on this weekly WAYPN. White is the enemy, ladies and gentlemen. I think that the grey could have started at a darker tone, but the way that he's done up the leather, I think, has come together just, just beautifully. But yeah, I think that it's come together fairly well overall. I think that compared to his foxy guy, I think that the skin could use a little more work, and just hit those eyes with a gloss. Because at the moment, despite the fact that they're really good, particularly because they're big, I think hitting them with a gloss will really help make them more alive. But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much it for the weekly WAYPN. If you guys have anything to say on that one little extra bit that I did just before the end, I would really particularly appreciate it. Even if you guys are backstage members and went over there and took a look at that. So the thing is, I'm really trying to get that guiding principle down 100% because I think no matter the rule system I make, no matter anything else, I think that's the most important thing. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that will be it for this weekly WAYPN. So ladies and gentlemen, you know how it goes by now. Say it with me now. Keep those brushes wet, and I will see you later. See ya!